All right, welcome everybody to our first webinar of 2025. Thank you for joining. We've already had a lot of really great feedback from people excited for this one, so we are also excited to put it on for you today. Of course, we're going to be covering simplified quoting and the benefits that it can bring your business. And this will feature taking you through some examples of that with Jonathan Bowen, our senior implementation specialist. But before we get into the actual demo, I just wanted to talk through a couple of things really quick, both high level about simplified quoting, as well as just some housekeeping. In that, be sure to keep an eye out for 2025 from a webinar standpoint because we're excited to be a lot more aggressive with putting on webinars this year. We've had a lot of really great ideas for different topics, some of which will be like what you're going to see today, where we take you through parts of PrintIQ, talk through functionality, maybe show you some tips and tricks. Other ones are going to be customer participation, where we're going to have a customer on to talk through their experience with PrintIQ so that you can hear how others are using the system and maybe take inspiration for that. And then lastly, we're going to have some really great ones with partners, different companies that we partner with from an integration standpoint or partner with to bring additional functionality into the system. And we've got some really amazing ones coming in the coming months. As always, though, if you have an idea for a webinar content you would like to see, feel free to always send me an email, craig@printiq.com. We're happy to take those ideas. We want to hear from you on the topics and things that you want to see in our webinar series. The other thing is we are going to leave some time towards the end of this for questions and answers. So be thinking about any questions you might have. And you don't have to wait till the end. If you have a question you've already thought of, feel free to go ahead and submit it through the question portal here on the Zoom webinar. We'll be happy to get to that towards the end of the call. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. So simplified quoting is something that's very unique in PrintIQ, and it's a very powerful thing that we've seen some really great success with people that are using it. However, we've also heard that sometimes when people put in PrintIQ, they maybe don't start with getting the simplified quoting going. It may be something that they have thought about doing for a while, and they wanted to get the system to a point where they're ready to move into simplified quoting after they're comfortable quoting in a more traditional sense. So this is a really great topic to talk about for those that may be considering PrintIQ, or even for those that have been in the system for a while. If you've implemented simplified but you're not happy with it entirely and you want to tweak it further to really meet your needs, then we can definitely talk through that with you, as well as embarking on getting it set up in the first place. So just really high level before Jonathan gets in and shows you some things. Some of the benefits of using something like simplified quoting in the way that PrintIQ does it is it does allow you to have those streamlined processes. So, you can reduce your quoting time overall because it gives you the ability to have an automated workflow by taking almost like a templated approach where you're able to predefine a lot of the minutia of how a product is produced and simplify it down to where someone entering the information for getting that quote started only really has to answer, a handful of basic questions about the product. And then the system takes it from there because you've baked all of that information in. So it allows for you to really streamline that, which also eliminates manual errors. So you get that increased accuracy, confidence. If you've got people like sales reps or customer service people or others in your organization that they might not have what we always refer to as estimator brain. Maybe they haven't been somebody who's been, quoting print for years, let's say, but they know enough about the products. They've learned enough that they can interact with the system in order to get that process out of there. From a estimator, the true estimating department or owners or managers, you can make sure and build all of that in there so you can empower those people to interact with the system in a way that also eliminates those manual errors for having to know all of those steps. Additionally, it simplifies the complex pricing scenarios. So again, you can bake in lots of different things in there. So if you have a pricing scenario, price lists, those kinds of things, you can come at building those simplified products inside of there so that those quotes take into consideration all of those details. The other thing is it gives you an enhanced customer experience as well. So through our customer portals, you also can empower customers to interact with those simplified quotes. or again, internally with your staff as well for the customer's benefit. You can empower them to do that by providing those faster, more accurate quotes. You can do it quicker, so you can cut down the time it takes to get those quotes. So your overall responsiveness can go up by using a tool like Simplified Quotes. The other thing it does is increases that transparency of providing that information. You can get that consistent pricing with clear, professional looking quotes that you can, knock out in record time, as well as building trust with, consistent, reliable quoting. Don't see big variations. You've locked in on what that product costs. You can quote it, and time as they come back to order from you, you've got that reliable quoting process going. Lastly, it really drives business growth. So we've had some great feedback and stories from customers who have taken simplified quoting, and it's really helped save them time, which makes them more money ultimately in the long run. So as we talked about, you can empower your team to handle more quotes with less effort. There's been times where there's maybe been some trepidation about putting in something like simplified quoting, because the illusion is there that, oh well, if you get it right, maybe it eliminates somebody who used to quote, and that really isn't the case that we've seen. It's very rare that you put in something like this to eliminate a position, when in reality, most of the time you're able to do more with the same amount of people, or possibly less in some scenarios, where you're taking all of that information and you're building that into the system so that under the hood, your PrintIQ understands your people, your process, your product, all of the things that are needed to generate that quote. So it allows you to be more efficient with the same amount of people. You also can improve the win rates of when you're getting those quotes, because we know, in addition to just what it costs, the time it takes for you to do it, how quick you can respond to a quote request, can ultimately win you more business if you're timely with that to align with those customer expectations. And then lastly, to tie it back to empowering your team and doing more with the same or less amount of people, it frees up time for you to focus on going after those bigger projects, higher value opportunities, doing things that are really going to grow your business by focusing on other areas of your business. And we believe that when done right, the simplified quoting process can definitely do that for you. All right, so enough of hearing me talk about it. I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan, but again, just a reminder, if you've thought of questions, things you'd like to cover in the Q&A section, make sure and submit those into the question portal. We'll be happy to answer those in just a little bit. All right, Jonathan, over to you.
All right, well, welcome everybody. And what I thought we'd do is basically run through, first of all, just an example of what simplified looks like. Many of you may have seen this. You may be also running it. And then we'll look at the speed in which you can actually build some of these, and then some of the things you can do with clients using the simplified quoting as well. So we're going to start and just basically take a quick quote, as it's sometimes called, or a simplified quote. And I'm just going to use my Barnes & Noble customer. And in here, we have the product tree is what we call it, which is all the different items that you can go in and you can select. So I'm going to just pick commercial printing, and I'm going to pick a digital book, and I'm going to go with a perfect bound digital book. So all of this can be built, given little icons and stuff, so it's really easy to find. Once you get into here, there is the sort of what we call filter set. So these are the sizes that basically can be used. So I'm going to pick an 8.5, 11. The stock for the cover in this case, we'll put it on 130-pound gloss. The color for the cover, we'll put it CMYK one side, and perhaps we can coat the outside with a gloss laminate. And then the text on the inside, we maybe use a 80-pound gloss. The color would be CMYK two sides. And then the amount of pages, and again, we can set this up in multiple ways. So we could say 64 pages. And then what kind of proof do I want? I want a PDF proof. Now, all of these items are basically from your custom quoting build. So what Simplified is doing is reaching into the custom quote, and it's grabbing all that information, and I'll show you in a minute, it's constraining it to what you want them to be able to pick. So for instance, when I was picking a cover, If I didn't want certain stocks to show up in there, I can just provide those types of covers that I want to use. So I can then name the product here, and then I can go grab my artwork, upload that into the simplified session. So it now sits in here. Helps if I spell it right. And then basically it gives us a description here based on what we want it to say. And this is, of course, editable. You can come in and say, I don't want it to say Perfect Man book. Perhaps I don't want it to show the spine information for the client. And maybe I want to be specific. So prints one side on this and on that. I can edit the text in here, whatever I want to do. Save that text change. And then I've got my quantities that are predetermined in here. So I can say, you know, I want, again, like we do in custom quoting, I can pick a series of quantities in here and, you know, whatever I decide those need to be. And I can then get the price, and it will then populate across the price for all these different quantities. And then I'm just going to simply pick who my contact is. So that's a simplified quote. What is super helpful is you can go click on view the pricing details. So even if I'm using simplifieds, I can click on here. Depending on my rights and privileges, I may not allow somebody to jump down here and see all the items below the belt, so to speak. But if I wanted to, I can still outsource the perfect binding if that's something I wanted to do. I can adjust my margins in here, and I can see all the different bits and pieces that are involved in this. And you'll notice there are some things in here like imposition, planning, file checking. Those were not choices in the simplified set above. Those are things that are automatically added in when we built the simplified session. So this is basically a simplified quote, and I can push that forward then and check it out. If I wanted to do more quantities, I can simply duplicate that and add in a different quantity set with the exact same process there. So that's a basic simplified quote. And then I can pick, you know, where do I want this to go to? And I have all the same functionality where I can say, I'm going to send it by UPS. And I'm going to do multiple quantities. I've got, you know, 50 that I'm going to send to the first location. And then basically I'm going to send some more to another location, 200 down to a second one here, and pick my other UPS. So I've got two of these products, and it just works the same way at this point in time as does a regular quote. Once you push that over into a job, then it looks exactly like any job that we have created. So if I complete this order, it will pull into IQ and create a job. And I'll have the ability in there to deal with this any way that I like. So I can grab my artwork that I already loaded, confirm this, and it will drop into IQ as a job, just like any of our jobs typically would, where I can go in and now edit it, add any information if I have a PO that shows up later on, if I know what my print dates and due dates are, and so on and so forth. This is just like any other job now, and it creates all of the proper sets as basically of operations that you're going to click through to create that job. So that's the basics of simplified. And you can create some fairly intricate ones, or you can create some very basic ones. Again, the idea is to take the workload off of the estimator. So usually the idea is what we're trying to do is create basically something that's going to take some work off of the estimator. So what I'm going to do is just demonstrate how we can come in and create a simplified quote. So I'm going to go into the capabilities and manage the product categories, and I'm going to make a brand new one, and I'm going to call this digital wall posters. And it's going to be a filter set, meaning that we're going to get those choices that you're going to get to go through and pick. I'm not going to put it into anything. I'll just leave it at the top. It'll be a low quantity. And I'm going to pick a modular filter that's pretty simple, stock, size, and color. And again, we can go through, you know, all kinds of, you know, how to set up these modular filters. So there's my filter set. I've got that created. I can add in here artwork to that, so it looks nice when I'm sitting there looking at it. I can upload that as well and basically save that. So I've got my wall posters. Then when I come into my quick quotes, I will now see, if I went back to Barnes and Noble, there would be wall posters that would show up, but there's nothing in these yet. There's no products that are going to show in there. So there's nothing to actually quote on. So typically the way we create simplified quotes is to go into a custom quote and, use whatever your testing customer is. I'm just going to do a flat sheet. And this is where we would pick this is going to be the digital wall poster. And I'm going to pick basically a stock. I don't need to pick, a ton of them. I can just pick a cover stock to start with. And basically say, okay, that's what I want. And I'm going to make this color over nothing on the back because obviously it's just a poster. And I'll pick my size. So I could pick something like a 12 by 18, let's say, and I'll have 10 of those. Now, I'm not going to complicate things over here with a whole bunch of stuff. I just want to show you how easy it is to turn a custom quote into a simplified quote. So there's all my pricing. And again, you can work with pricing lists and come up with how you want it to show up. But I can proceed that once I tell it that I've got somebody for my PDF proof and push that along. Then we have this little toggle button here now where I can pop that down and I can template this product into either a simplified session or a single product creation. Now, the difference between the two, simplified session has the filter. So I can pick, is it 100 pound, 130 pound, what size, what color? Whereas a single product is just saying, this is a product we use all the time. And it's just a choice of quantity is all I really want. So we're going to create a simplified session from this. So I'm going to pop open my details and I will name this. So this is going to be a digital wall poster. I will then pick where I want that to live. So it's going to live in the wall posters tree node that I created a second ago. I can have my quantity set of, a low quantity. And I may decide a couple of things with this now, how I want this to be. So I might say I don't want bleeds on these things. I may want bleeds, but I don't have to have them. So I can save and then move on to the next section, which is the single section. So it's basically giving me some information in here. And I might turn around and say, because these are posters and they're small runs, I only want it to price on my digital presses. And I can also turn around and say, I only want it to be at certain locations. So in our case, we're going to pick our digital offset location. And you may not have multiple locations. That might not be necessary, but I can restrict that to that. And then it's a case of moving across what my choices are. So I added one stock, but I'm going to turn around and say, you know what? We could print this on a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to say, show me my stock groups. And I'm interested in my covers stocks. And so basically, I want to just pick out of here. Sorry, I'm going to flip that over to cover stocks. Here's my cover stocks. And I may then choose in here which ones that I want. So I'm going to pick 100 pound, 130 pound, a bunch of these different choices in here. And again, I can pick as many or as few as I decide that I want. Those are all now stocks that I'll be able to pick. Because it's a poster, there is only one fold, so I don't need to worry about that. Processes, I've got CMYK over none, but maybe I want to do black over nothing as well. So it's a wall poster, so I'm not going to have anything on the back, but I may want a black poster as well. And then I could get into side operations where we could potentially laminate it, or we could get into, other operations in here that we might have section operations if we so desired. But I'm just going to scoot through that and go down to the next step, which is basically all of my job operations. Now you'll see it's automatically added in here, a series of job operations. I've got my imposition, my planning, my file checking, my brochure, and my PDF proof. So these are all things that I don't want the customer to have to pick, but I want them included in the job. So when I created my job, I can add those in, and I might want to add in my, administrative overhead if I was using that, or an administrative fee, or whatever it might be. I may have other things I want to add, which I can absolutely do. So I then run down to my sizes and I say, okay, when it comes to sizes, then this is going to be a digital job. So I could definitely do 8.5, 11, 8.5, 14, some 11, 17, 13, 19. Now I know in my site, I've got a digital press, an Indigo, so I can have some of these larger sizes as well. And I'll just pick a couple of those and we'll say that's good. So I'm going to review then this. This is 49 products in total. So it's like creating 49 quotes all at once. And I can create and finish that. And then this becomes a job that is now a quick quote and able to pick. So if I go in and I'll just do my typical clear cache, whenever you're working in Simplified, it's always a good thing to do. So I come in to clear my cache and I'm going to go back to my Barnes & Noble customer. And I'm going to now find my digital wall posters. And here's my choices. So I have in here, I don't think I connected it. Just a second. Let me just go back and edit that item. Typical, isn't it? Everything always works great until you're doing a demo. Okay, give me 1 second here, and I'm just going to find my product that I created and go back and fix it up. Okay, let's see if we can find it another way. It's not going to live in here. So this is just showing all the products that I have created. And I'm just trying to find everything that is in here. And then I'm going to just look very quickly for my last one, which is my product that I created. Okay, well, let me just go back here because I ran one of these earlier. And I'm just going to show my inactive ones and turn on my wall poster because it's the exact same thing. So here we go into my quick quotes and go to my Barnes & Noble customer. And I've got my wall poster and the same thing. Here's my stocks. Here's the sizes that I can pick. And basically here's the colors. So I can then get my price and basically it will pick based on this. And of course, everything works until it doesn't. That's why. Let's get rid of this one. And let's just clear the cache. And I will go in and create this one more time. So I got my wall poster. And I basically have picked my color, pick my size, and get my price. And I have my poster here. And again, I can pick my multiple sizes, same way, 15, 20, and so on and so forth, 25, and get price. And then it will give me all of these. So what happened there was I hung my product on the wrong tree node. I had run this through earlier and it created a demo wall poster node just to kind of run through it. And I ended up hanging it on the wrong spot. So there is my poster. And I can show basically that to any CSRs that want to use it. They can come in and order those posters. And then I no longer have to have my estimators creating wall posters if this is something I do all the time. Now, it works the same for whether it is wide format, whether it's digital or even litho, any of those can work the same way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump out of here and I'm going to swap my user and I'm going to show you what this looks like from a customer's point of view. Because I can also have a customer come in through their portal. So I branded a Barnes and Noble portal, and they can come in and they can use the same quick quote, and they can come in and create that wall poster that we just did, and they can pick the color, they can pick their product, and they can get their price, and it will create the poster for them. So they can turn around and say, I want 10 of those, add their artwork in here as the customer, that is, and upload that, and you can have them order their own product and basically have this drop in and they can check out. And depending on what settings you give them, they are able to then accept this and complete the order and decide, where is this going to go? They want it to go to this location. It's going to go by Barnes and Noble or going to go by FedEx, and then they can complete their own order. So the Barnes and Noble customer has created this quote themselves, and they can go in then and drop it in. And obviously, all of the pricing is absolutely controlled by IQ and by you, so they don't get to see, excuse me, the pricing or any of the variations that you build in. They get the price that is limited to them, so they can go in and they can order. But the other thing that can happen here is that you can create specific things. So if I go into Barnes and Noble, I just want you to notice here that there is no medical category in here. So what you can also do using simplifieds is create categories that are going to be specific. So I have a medical customer, Novo, which I think is the dudes that make Ozempic. So inside of here, when they go into create their custom quotes, they're just seeing all of their specific items that they're able to order. So in this case, they could order medical equipment because this guy wanted to be able to do that. They can order medical preprints and so on and so forth. They can get quick quotes on content, writing, patient brochures, whatever it might be. But all they're seeing in their menu are the items that I let them look at. That's all they're going to see. So you're able to, have them just order items that are specific to them. Now, the other thing I can do is have a very restricted group for them. But what I also can do is add in a couple of items that maybe they don't traditionally order, but I want them to know that we do pull-up banners or things like that. So I can create a couple of extra items where they can see those, and entice them into ordering some stuff that maybe they didn't realize that your company actually does. They've always thought of you as a traditional litho house and don't know that you do some wide format stuff, and you can expose that to them as well. But they can go in through their portal and they can order straight from the website. So you can create them pretty simply. You can modify them pretty simply. So if I go into here and I go into my capabilities and I need to change this, I can modify my existing capabilities. I can jump into my wall poster, and there is my digital wall poster. I can edit this session, and whatever I do now, I could decide, I want extra stock in here. I could add extra stocks. I noticed that I didn't get my black, so I can put in my black and add that in. So that will then be an option for me. I could add in other things in here as well. I may not have a stock anymore. It might be that we don't carry one of these stocks, so I can basically exclude that or remove the selected item. So I'm able to very quickly come in here and modify my sizes. I might turn around and say, we're not going to allow the smaller sizes. We're going to remove those out of here, just allow the bigger sizes, and then basically review and create. And now I have 60 products, 60 quote variations that I'm making, and I can create and finish that. And the point of this is that when somebody comes in here and they are ordering, they're only going to be picking the stocks that we can use. So they're not going to be picking NCR paper by accident and trying to print a poster on it or whatever it might be. As the estimator, we're constraining them to these are the things that make the most sense. These are the things that we do every day, all day long. These are the stocks. These are the processes. These are the operations. I may want to allow them to do laminating or something like that. But as the estimator, I'm choosing what I want them to be able to do, and constraining it into that. Now, if they want more than that, then they can come back to you and say, hey, I've got something that's out of the box and I want to have you quote that. And that's where a custom quote would come in. And they could always do a RFC, a request for quote, and say, hey, you know, this is what I want. I want it on such and such a size. It's bigger than what you've got. And the other thing I should mention in here is when it comes to sizes, you have the ability to add in a custom size where you can create a minimum of, let's say, 11 with a maximum of, let's say, 22 and a maximum size of, or sorry, maximum of, let's say, 34 and a minimum or maximum size, or sorry, minimum size, let's make it 1117, and my maximum becomes 2234. And what that does, it allows them to pick anything between here and here by creating this constraint. Now they can go in there and pick anything that they like. So when I create and finish this, if I go back to my quick quotes, and I'll just clear my cache because I've been editing this. And if I go back to Barnes & Noble, I'm able to drop in here to my wall poster now, pick my stock, pick my size, and I can pick a custom size and say that I want something within those constraints. So if I look at this and say there's 22 by 34, I could turn around and say I want a custom size of 21 by 32. And that is the size I want, and I want a color on both sides, and I get my price. And now it gives them lots of flexibility because it's a poster. We don't really care. I may have picked a slightly wrong size, 2234. Let me just see here. Oh, it might be that gloss stock. Oh, no, it's available in multiple sizes. Yeah, so I'd have to look at this. And again, you will definitely have some troubleshooting to do. It might be that the press it wants to run this on. So if I jump down the bottom and have a look at the details and say, hey, I want to run this on a press, certain sizes will work and certain sizes will not. And I've got to make sure that I have all my presses in the right place. So when you do get those raspberries, they are by design, saying that whatever you've done is outside the constraints of what IQ is going to allow. So if I picked 12.5 by 19.5 and I get my price, so this is outside of that, it should be fine and give me my price in here as well. And again, that will require some cutting because we will have to cut that after the job is done. So when I drop down here and I see this, it's going to add in guillotining, which wouldn't necessarily have been there before because we were printing two size. So that's kind of a quick run through of Simplified. I will hand the con over to Craig and go for any
Absolutely.
questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Jonathan. All right. So we've had quite a few people submit questions, so we'll just dive in real quick. Jonathan, I'll read the question to you and then I'll give you a minute to answer it. The first one is some types of jobs have different finish sizes for different sections of the job. For example, an NCR form of 9 by 11 with the wraparound cover being 9 by 22. How do you handle the different sizes for the different sections in a simplified session for such a common product?
So when we come to build in our capabilities, the filter sets, so we can define the filters, we have sizes that we can build in for different things. So if I was just to pick one of these, so let me just see, I've got notepads in here, stock, and then, so these are all of the filter sets that I've got. And one of them is, in here, let me just see if I can find all my sizes. So we've got size for the finish size here, and maybe those are my 4. So I guess by the looks of it, that would be a custom quote because we would have, there is only one size choice inside of here right now. Now let me just go back and have a look at that. If I edit my filters and I've got my finish size, I can come down here, and if I pick in here, I may be able to create a section size and tag that in. I'd have to run it through and have a look at it. But basically, the filter sets allow you to customize this. So I may be able to turn around and say section size and have basically a finish size for the section where I can make it to the single section. So I would have a single, like, and again, I could call this whatever I wanted, the top sheet, the first sheet, whatever it might be, and have it apply to that, and then create my second one, which would apply to a different area. So I would create 2 sizes so that I'm able to actually pick 2 sizes inside the simplified session. Now I'd have to run that through. I can't say that I have done that before, but it looks like the capability is there.
Yeah, and for all of these questions, including that one we just answered, you know, we definitely are seeing who's submitting the question, and after the meeting or after the webinar today, we can reach out as well to continue the discussion individually with every person, so that we can maybe hop on a session to talk through that. So we're happy to follow up after the meeting as well. All right, so continuing on with questions, how would you quote a project that will be 100% outsourced? Is that possible with Simplified?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So if I go to my quick quote for Novo, which was my medical customer, so in the medical set here, because I picked Novo, I'm able to see all of this. So in here, there are all kinds of things that are 100% outsourced, whether they are ancillary items, so they are sourced items. And basically, I'm going to come in here and just get a price. And then when I come in here, I can put in the cost of this item. So it might be, $400 or $250. And then I can describe in here what that item is. So it might be that this is, we're shipping out pouches or something like that. And you're able to create in here and describe it then. So when it pushes over into IQ, it becomes then something that we can create a purchase order on. So this is an outsourced item. And if I just hit save on this and save on this, I will also get my pricing details down here, and I am able to come in here, and if I wanted to link a supplier to this, I can outsource this item. I can tag in, whether it was embroidery or whatever it might be, and I can go through the same process to get the price from the vendor, and they might turn around to me and say, hey, that's going to cost you $175, and we're going to put a markup factor on that potentially, and I can choose that item. So I can still save and close that. So if it's 100% work outsourced, I'm able to create those items. And again, you would create the heading, pouches or whatever it might be. And if you have a price list from the vendor, we can build that price list into this specific item and tag the vendor to it. So it's not like you're having to go and source that price every time, and maybe you are, and you can do this process if you are, but we can also turn around and build that price list into the component records of the sourced item, and then basically go from there.
Okay, great. Next one, when you make a customized quote into a simplified template, would it keep all your customized markups on that template?
So if you were coming into the custom quote and you were creating all kinds of I would say like factors that you're putting onto stuff, simplified is not going to hold on to all of that information, but if you're doing it by price lists and things like that, then it certainly can. So If you do it by component records, where you're putting the factor into the component record, it will hold all of those component records. If you are doing it like pricing tiers, so you may have a base simplified item, which customer X is going to cost them $1,000, customer Y it's 1,200. You can still use your pricing tiers inside of simplified so that it's dynamic based on the customer. But if you wanted specific line items to have specific factors on them, then you would need to build that into the component record of that item when you create the outsource for it, or the factors for it right at the component level.
All right. In the demo, you separated out litho and digital as products. Could you combine to let PrintIQ choose the cheapest option, or do you need to define the production method?
Yeah, you do not need to define them. So inside of here, when I came in, we have a lot of customers prefer to do it that way, where you go into commercial printing and I've got digital or offset books. I do not need to do that. I can have it basically price that out accordingly. And there's lots of things we can do inside of IQ where we can create what I call rabbit holes, so that they all live under the same node. So if I had perfect bound books, so if it was a certain size or a certain fold or whatever, it's going to go down a litho route. If it was a different size, it could go down a digital route, but it will also pick between the two of them to decide which is the most economical to do that. So certain constraints will force it into the litho world. So for instance, if you had 16-page books, but if you're doing or 16-page folded sections, but if you're doing 4-page folded sections and you're running it through your not even 4-page folded, but if you're doing as book blocks and you're running it through basically either digital or litho, it will basically pick based on what makes the most sense. So you can hang them both under there. I was just showing that you do have the option to push it down one rabbit hole or the other.
How would you add an operation in a simplified session that is tied to, for example, stock cover weight would need to score, but the text would not?
So typically as well, when we create the session, so if I jump into this one here and I edit this session, I can have in here for my cover and my side operations or my section operations, I might want to add into here scoring. And I can do that, but not have it be a pickable thing. So they don't have to pick it, but it will basically know that if it's the cover and we want to score it, we can build that in so that it will surface in the operation once we get over to the job, but it doesn't necessarily need to be there in the choices that they're going to make, because again, lots of people wouldn't know, whether it's going to score or not. And again, by creating rabbit holes, so let's say your cover was a text stock, you can create 2 sessions, one where the covers are text stocks that don't require to have excuse me, that don't require to have the scoring. And you can make another rabbit hole where it's a cover stock and it does require the scoring. So depending on what the client picks, it will either go down rabbit hole A, add the scoring, or go down rabbit hole B and not add the scoring. So you can definitely have some intelligence in there. It's kind of like choose your own adventure. If they choose door number 1, even though they don't know they're doing this, then behind the scenes, it adds in other options that are below the surface and hidden from them, but automatically tagged in.
And you used fixed tiered pricing with simplified sessions?
So yes, you can. You can go into the simplified sessions and basically come up with pricing tiers based on it's kind of like based on how you want to price this. So when we pick in here our pricing method, So we could have wholesale pricing in here. We have a method that we're going to pick. I got to hit the edit button here. So when I look at my pricing details, I'm picking my pricing list, and then I can pick my pricing method. So I could have fixed quantities, single quantities, and so on and so forth. So we are able to generate some of that information in here. A lot of times when it's if it's very specific, they would end up using a single product where it's a predefined item because of the amount of potential options that are kind of blow out from there. So does it have laminating? Does it not have laminating? Well, that's going to be two totally different prices. So typically those are going to be done as single products, but you can again build those into your component records as well.
Should the products be previously cataloged or are they developed during the quote?
So I'm assuming what you mean by that is when you create the capabilities in here, manage the product categories, they will need to have a catalog to sit in. So it doesn't automatically create that because inside of the wall poster, I'm picking in here what are my filters. So I'm saying, maybe I want to have stock size, color, and laminating, or maybe just stock size and colors. So I am creating these ahead of time, but you can mass do this where you can export all of these items, make your changes and import them back in so you can create your tree structure by one massive import. And again, you can add more to it down the road from that as well.
Okay. So we have a customer who described where they have set up client-facing portals, but mentioned sometimes individuals, have had issues logging in as themselves, and so they use a shared marketing team login, which kind of breaks the communication trail. They want to know if IQ is updated to allow individuals to initiate their own login and easily recognizing and allow them to log back in later. I mean, to start out with, of course, you can generate user logins for in customers. I think Jonathan, you were showing that if they're logged in as, you know, themselves, whenever they go in through the portal, they can see the history of past quotes that they've done, various other information. I think you can swap to that view, maybe here in a minute. So that would allow them to have a trail of activity, I believe. We also have instances where, so in this case, what Jonathan's showing here is you would need to, an internal staff user on your side would need to create a login for the customer. As far as, dynamically allowing them to create their own, the only way that I believe we've done that in the past is we can integrate for single sign-on for like an Active Directory type situation where maybe their single sign-on that they're using in other parts of an environment, let's say, is recognized in Print IQ as well. So we can accommodate for that. That's my thoughts on it, but Jonathan, you can elaborate further.
Yeah, I'm basically just running you through how you would create a customer sign-on. You tie it to their portal. So Barnes and Noble is the customer site. And then when this person logs in, they will be able to log into that Barnes and Noble site because they are tagged in as a customer. So if I swap my user here, and I'm just going to type in Bob Jones and swap that user, they're coming in now to the maybe I didn't link it to there. So this is actually yeah, I didn't link it. So I gotta link it further to the actual customer site. But basically that's what you do is you go in, you create a customer user, and basically it would be the brand would be, so you can tag them to Barnes and Noble. That's what they're going to see. That's their customer site. You can tie them to a location. And then basically, I think that's all we need to do. Update the user. And then if I log out, swap the user, they'll drop in now to the Barnes and Noble, and they'll be able to drop in and see all the jobs that are there for Barnes and Noble. So that's typically how we do that. It is something that we typically would ask the customer, who are the users on your end, but that's how that typically is going to take place.
Okay. All right, last question. When uploading simplified sessions via CSVs, sometimes there can be over 10,000 variations, and the CSV versions of sessions are extremely slow to upload sessions, sometimes timing out or even getting pricing. Is there a better way to do this?
Yeah, so typically we recommend that you break them up. But there is, if you have some massive sessions, there is a setting in the back of IQ that we built in for this, where you can go in and we can open up the SQL time to upload, so that it's not timing out after 10 minutes. Typically, you'll notice that it's 10 minutes that it will time out after. So if you want to do some larger ones, contact us and we can open that up for you. I do have one customer that literally had in the trillions of different variations. I don't recommend that, because it obviously is a dog when it comes to pricing and other things like that. But we definitely can help with the uploads to make sure that it's going to allow them. We just have to make an SQL change in the background so that it will allow you to do that.
All right, excellent. I would say if you are a customer that is in build phase, still in implementation, you can discuss that with your implementation specialist. If you are a live customer, you can put in a desk ticket as well if you're interested in discussing that more there. So, all right. So, just a few minutes left. So, in closing, just want to remind everybody, if you think of a question afterwards, you didn't get a chance to ask, feel free to reach out. You can filter that through myself, Craig at printiq.com. And we're happy to get you, some help and answers on that to your question. If you'd like to discuss more what you saw here today, for your business, whether that's you're considering PrintIQ and you haven't invested in the platform yet, or if you're a current customer as well and want to just dive deeper on what's possible, we're happy to have that conversation and continue that discussion. Also, feel free to reach out with me and we'll get that set up for you. Thank you to everyone who came today. It was a great turnout. Lots of great questions are submitted. It's always nice when we have participation, from the audience. So we appreciate it, and we will make sure and get the recording of this out to you so you can watch it again later. And again, be on the lookout for future sessions and submit your ideas if there are things you would like to talk about. So thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate your time today. And thanks everyone who came. See you next time.